Very grim news this morning of us having lost 20 of our soldiers in the biggest and the most unprecedented face-off between India and China at the line of actual control. A statement that's been put out by the Indian Army late last night said that 20 of our personnel have been martyred in this face-off that took place at the Galwan Valley in Ladakh. The statement also said that the Indian Army is firmly committed to protecting the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the nation. As per news agency ANI, the number of those dead and injured have gone up to 43 on the Chinese side. ANI also reported that there has been an increase in Chinese chopper activity across the line of actual control to airlift casualties suffered in the Galwan brawl. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Home Minister Amit Shah over the Chinese escalation. In a statement, the Ministry of External Affairs said that China departed from consensus to respect the LAC and that it attempted to unilaterally change status quo. MEA also said that there wouldn't have been casualties if China had respected the agreement and that India's activities are only on its own side of the line of actual control. And Rahul Kawal breaks down for you exactly what happened at the line of actual control. Remember, this is at the Galwan Valley, so he breaks it down for you in a map.
In this general area of Patrol Point 14, when the confrontation took place, some of the soldiers fell off the ledge and into the Galwan River, which is when they were exposed to sub-zero temperatures, because that's icy water. It's really cold. It's a very narrow river, but very, very cold, very, very fast. Some Indian soldiers slipped into it, some Chinese soldiers slipped into it as well. So that's essentially what happened here. So from what we've been able to gather is this, that the Chinese had agreed that there would be disengagement, and then last evening there was a verification party of 6 Bihar which went up to see whether the Chinese had actually disengaged from this Patrol Point 14 position or not. And there they found that the Chinese troops that were deployed there were actually in a very venomous kind of mood, almost as if they were itching for a fight. And anybody who knows a verification party knows that the numbers are very small. We don't know the exact numbers, but a very small party goes out to see whether the Chinese actually disengaged or not. That's when reinforcements were called in. Before that, situations got out of hand over here and there was violence. So they had barbed wires, they had rods, and it got really, really messy. Initially, we were outnumbered, then more troops of the 6 Bihar came in, and by then the commanding officer was already badly injured, and as a result of which, very naturally, the 6 Bihar boys were furious, and that led to a huge escalation in the violence. And as a result of which, there were heavy fatalities on the Chinese side as well. The Chinese have said, because they've suffered greater fatalities from what we gather, that they don't want to reveal the number in the public. But the Indian Army is a professional army and they don't hide fatalities. They in fact honor our dead, and therefore there is no question of this being like a COVID death which the Chinese just brush under the carpet and the whole world is scratching its head wondering what's happening. The Indians reveal the toll that they had to suffer as a result of this violence, and that stands at 20. I'm told, unfortunately, that number could potentially go up. There are more people who are critically injured, more soldiers critically injured, so that toll could potentially rise.
So we're now getting you inside details of exactly what happened to the line of actual control in Ladakh, which led to the death of 20 of our braves. Here's a blow-by-blow account of the Chinese treachery. Now on Tuesday, major generals of the two sides were scheduled to meet, and the Chinese side was supposed to move back further. With PLA troops not going back, the Indian Army team led by Colonel Santosh Babu went to hold discussions with the Chinese side. But the Chinese deliberately aggravated the situation. Without any provocation, you had PLA soldiers attacking the Indian delegation, and they had sticks, stones and clubs which had barbed wires around them. During this fight, the Indian side was outnumbered by almost a ratio of 3:1. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the Indian soldiers held their ground. The commanding officer suffered serious injuries during the scuffle, which went on for more than 3 hours late in the evening. The Indian side retaliated hard, caused heavy casualties also to the Chinese. And let's explain it for you in further detail as to exactly what happened on June 15th. So the commanding officer, as I mentioned earlier, the commanding officer of the Indian Army led an unarmed group to the Chinese camp. This was essentially to patrol. The Chinese army, in an unprovoked attack, charged at these soldiers with rocks that were wrapped in barbed wires. They had metal clubs, they had wooden logs also, which had nails around them. Immediately, the Indian troops took the CO, the commanding officer, and the Havildar back, leaving behind some injured troops who were then taken captive instantly. After 40-odd minutes, now the same unit of the Indian Army, led by a major and a captain of company strength troops, returned and assaulted the Chinese post. We understand that 55 to 56 Chinese soldiers were seriously assaulted. Many casualties were also inflicted. There was a brigadier level Chinese officer on the post. He waved for peace to stop the fighting. The Indian Army quickly took back the captives, our captives, and then pushed Chinese army back. Now, the assault was followed by multiple colonel-level talks as well. And for now, the army is now at these ITBP posts. They've taken charge of the ITBP posts in the area. And let's get you the first reaction that's coming in from the United States on what's happened in the Galwan Valley. The US State Department spokesperson has said, and I quote here, "We're closely monitoring the situation between Indian and Chinese forces along the line of actual control. We note the Indian Army has announced that 20 soldiers lost their lives. We offer our condolences to their families. Both India and China have expressed desire to de-escalate, and we support a peaceful resolution of the current situation." During their telephonic conversation on June 2nd, President Trump and Prime Minister Modi had discussed the situation on the India-China border. So the United States issuing a statement here saying that they're closely tracking and monitoring what's happening on the line of actual control, also offering their condolences over the martyrdom of 20 of our soldiers. The United States also maintaining that they hope that there is a peaceful resolution to what's happened at the line of actual control. Geeta Mohan is joining us with more details on this. Geeta, good morning. Can you just sum up for us what the reaction is from the United States now?
Well, the United States of America has very, very closely monitored the situation at the India-China border. Remember, when the tensions first began, we saw President Trump himself come in, and in the conversations with Prime Minister Modi, the matter did come up where they did ask about what the situation at the border is, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi had expressed that it's a bilateral issue. Having said that, the fact that the State Department is now coming out and not only expressing or offering condolences, but speaking of the fact that these tensions have to de-escalate, and that the losses of life certainly is something that is disturbing, not just for the United States of America, for the international community. Because this, even though there have been a lot of tensions at the India-China border, this is the first time in 45 years that we're seeing loss of life, and that changes the dynamics of peace and security in the region. If India-China border become volatile, and if there are losses of life at this border, which has not seen deaths in so many years, then it really puts a question mark on what peace and tranquility in the region would look like or could look like. And the United States of America, being a player in the region, is worried, and that's the concern that they've expressed through the State Department.
All right, Geeta, thank you for getting us those details. The first reaction from the United States, where they've expressed concern and they said that they're tracking what's happening very closely, also offering their condolences to the families of the 20 Jawans that we've lost. And as we continue to get you all the latest updates of what's happening in the line of actual control, let's shift focus this morning to also tell you on the coronavirus crisis what the latest numbers are. This is what the Health Ministry has put out on the confirmed cases in India, now standing at 3,43,091. The death toll has gone up now to 9,900. Maharashtra is the worst affected state, with the number of cases now going up. This is the confirmed cases. It stands at 1,10,744. Also, take a look look at the death toll there, it will sharply go up in the coming hours. At this point, it stands at 4,128. Over to Tamil Nadu, the second worst affected state in the country, where the number of cases stands at 46,504, the death toll at 479. Delhi, the third worst affected, the number of cases at this point stands at 42,829, the death toll at 1,400. So those are the latest figures as of 6:30 this morning. Even as the cases are on a rise across the country, today is day 2 of the Prime Minister's consultations with chief ministers. So he will be holding his second day of interactions with state chief ministers to really discuss the COVID situation. 15 states and union territories with a lot of cases. Now, these states have a lot of active cases. They will be participating in the virtual meet today. These include worst hit states like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Delhi, Gujarat, Rajasthan and others. Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee will give this crucial meet a miss, miffed at not featuring in the list of speakers for the meeting. In the first round of consultation on Tuesday, Prime Minister spoke to chief ministers of 21 states and union territories. And during this meeting, Prime Minister said that India is effectively fighting COVID-19 as it is amongst the countries with the least COVID deaths. Also getting you updates from the state of Maharashtra, which has interestingly revised its COVID-19 tally. New figures that have been released by the Uddhav government put the death toll at more than 5,500. The opposition BJP had earlier accused the state government of hiding the figures.
The COVID-19 toll in Maharashtra is much higher than what was thought. The state government has finally released a reconciled figure of overall COVID deaths. 862 more deaths have been added in Mumbai, which had 2,250 deaths earlier. The total tally has now risen to 3,112. 466 deaths have been added in the rest of Maharashtra. The statewide toll is now above 5,500. On June the 10th, the Uddhav Thackeray government has asked all district collectors and municipal bodies to reconcile the death data as many deaths were found unreported. Former Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis had alleged suppression of COVID death numbers.
The government of Maharashtra constituted a death audit committee giving a contradictory mandate. This committee has put 451 deaths in non-COVID category in spite of them being the COVID deaths. And now that it has surfaced, the category is being changed. This clearly shows that the state government is trying to suppress the number of deaths in Mumbai. This is a criminal conspiracy and we demand high-level inquiry into this conspiracy.
The state government has rejected the BJP's charges.
अफसोस की बात है कि पूरी दुनिया में ये स्तर पे विरोधी पक्ष के लोग जाएंगे, कोई सीबीआई की बात करता है, कोई मौत छुपाने की बात करते हैं। एक बात तो सीधी सरल है कि मुंबई शहर या महाराष्ट्र में अगर सरकार को आंकड़े छुपाने होते तो इतनी ज्यादा टेस्टिंग किए ही नहीं होते।
The government claims many deaths were not reflected due to various reasons. In many cases, COVID test results came after the deaths. Many government as well as private hospitals had errors in the reconciliation while maintaining death reports. Some private hospitals didn't report COVID deaths despite receiving COVID certificates. Importantly, the newly released data shows heavy reconciliation in the Mumbai metropolitan region. Now the government has asked the district and municipal authorities to be accurate while maintaining death records. With Sahil Joshi in Mumbai, Bureau Report, India Today.
And there's been a major breakthrough in the fight against COVID-19 in the United Kingdom. A low-cost, mild steroid treatment, Dexamethasone, which is cheap and widely available, is now being used to treat seriously ill COVID patients. In trials led by a team from Oxford University, around 2,000 COVID patients were given Dexamethasone drug, and the results were compared to more than 4,000 who did not receive the drug. For patients on ventilators, it cut the risk of death from 40% to 28%. For patients needing oxygen, it cut the risk of death from 25% to 20%. And Rajdeep Sardesai also spoke to Dr. Nick Kamak, spokesperson of the Wellcome Trust, on the buzz around the new British COVID drug.
There's been a major breakthrough in the fight against COVID-19 in the United Kingdom. A low-dose steroid treatment, Dexamethasone, which is cheap and widely available, is now being used to treat seriously ill COVID patients, and the first results have been very positive. In trials led by a team from Oxford University, around 2,000 COVID patients were given Dexamethasone drug. The results were compared to more than 4,000 who did not receive the drug. For patients on ventilators, it reportedly cuts the risk of death from 40% to 28%. For patients needing oxygen, it cuts the risk of death from 25% to 20%. That's the big story that's making the headlines now in the fight against COVID. Joining me now is a very special guest. I'm joined by Dr. Nick Kamak. He's spokesperson, Wellcome Trust, and they've been looking at the entire issue of Dexamethasone very closely. There's so much buzz, Doctor, about the drug at the moment, Dr. Kamak, whether Dexamethasone can be that first real life-saving drug for patients seriously ill with coronavirus. Do you see it as the path-breaking drug that's being projected?
Well, coronavirus is a new virus for us, and up to now, nothing has been available to make any difference to patients' lives. We've seen the information on remdesivir, which sort of improves the symptoms by a few days, but dexamethasone today is the first drug to be shown to be saving lives. Not all lives in the intensive care unit. 1 out of 8 patients on the ventilator, their life will be saved. But that's a massive step forward. It's not the answer, but a massive step forward for coronavirus treatment.
You're calling it a massive step forward, Dr. Kammer, there. It says it cuts the risk of death by 1/3 for patients on ventilator and for those on oxygen by about 1/5. Do you see, therefore, it having a massive impact on those today who are on ventilators or in ICU?
Yeah, so even at that extent of benefit, so for example, in the UK, that would have saved, if we'd used dexamethasone from day one, that would have saved up to 5,000 lives. So around the world, you can imagine a huge number of lives will be saved using dexamethasone.
Dr. Kammer, of course, the question is, can it be scaled up? And if so, how soon can it be scaled up? We are told the United Kingdom is now reported to have 200,000 courses of the drug ready. The big question is, how soon can it be made available on a large scale across the world?
Yeah, so one great benefit of this medicine is it's been around a very long time. It's generic, it's off patent. There are many manufacturers around the world, and they, of course, will be able to scale this up. And it can be made cheaply. It's a simple chemical. So in that respect, when we think about global access, which at the Wellcome Trust is a priority for us, we're excited that this drug has the potential to be made and scaled for use for individuals in the intensive care units around the world.
A final question there, Doctor, because in India we have already approved remdesivir as a possible treatment now, do you seem to believe that this particular drug will be even a step ahead of remdesivir?
I think this is absolutely a step ahead. There large number of patients in the recovery study that showed a real benefit from a mortality perspective, which remdesivir hasn't shown up to now. So yes, this is the first real big step forward for treatment. But as I mentioned, not now for us all to stop trying to find further treatments and vaccines for this pandemic.
In fact, that was, Doctor, my last question. Is this a step ahead in finding better drugs, better medication? And of course, is the final goal still the vaccination? So therefore, this is now part of the step-by-step approach to look for better drugs and better medication for coronavirus.
Yeah, so exactly that. I think this is treating the inflammatory condition that is the biggest problem at the later stages of the disease in the ICU. What we need are specific antivirals that will stop people ending up in the hospital in the first place. That's what we really need. We want to be able to give people who start to have symptoms a specific antiviral that will kill off the virus, and they won't need to even go to hospitals. That's the ambition, and we must not stop striving for that.
Dr. Gamma, thank you so much for joining us on that news that's breaking across the world. Possible life-saving drug that's been found for COVID-19, or could be used for COVID-19 treatment for those on ventilators and in ICUs.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.